bum 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 bum. Welcome to Mark Twain. Mark Twain. His real name is Samuel Langhorne Clemens. In fact, here's a little spelling out for you. Samuel Langhorne Clemens. And this guy is the most notorious and one of the most famous authors. In fact, he's probably the father of American literature himself. He was born on November 30th of 1835. And the funniest story about it is that same day he was expected early. There was Halley's Comet, which was, according to his mom, a good sign for Mark Twain because he lived, even though he was born a little bit too early. He was born prematurely. The thing is, Samuel Langhorne Clemens was born during Halley's Comet, and he thinks of loads of things. He lived at least 75 years. In fact, he lived until 1910, which means he lived 65 plus. He lived 74 years. And about every 75 years, Halley's Comet comes by, so you kind of know what's going to happen there. So his childhood, he was raised in Hannibal, Missouri. In fact, this is called the Tom Sawyer fence. Here stood the board fence which Tom Sawyer persuaded his gang to pay him for a privilege of whitewashing. Tom sat by and saw. Tom sat by and saw that it was yeah. In the story itself, Tom Sawyer basically somehow persuaded his gang to pay him for the privilege of whitewashing, and it's a scam himself, and he used that to get the honor, and he also got the byproduct of an expensive Bible. Now, it turns out this place is also the setting of St. Petersburg and although St. Petersburg didn't exist at the time, in real life it exists in Russia currently. Right now it exists in Russia. And from there, we see loads of things that seems to happen. And from there on, he had his apprenticeship where he first worked as a printer for his brother. Then he became a typesetter. After becoming a typesetter for a while, he became a newspaper writer for the actual column that his brother wrote, the Animal Paper. And he also became, then later, we became the novelist as we know today. And he wrote all those great books. In fact, his first book was a gigantic success. It's called The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Cavaliers County. It's about a frog and his life and how high he can jump. He can't jump so high. He jump higher than the highest jumping robot. And from here, he wrote the most celebrated books of all time. He wrote all the American classics that all American kids and adults seem to read and enjoy all the same. Huckleberry Finn, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. It talks about a guy named Huckleberry Finn who goes away and hey, I'm a guy and I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and not do work. And he gets away with it because his mom's dead and his dad is drunk. Also, he once didn't get away with it because his dad was drunk and he tried to kill him. So he faked his death a few days later. And from there, he basically figured out hey, I can just run away now. Yippee-ki-yay! He runs away. Then there's this flash flood that happens. And then, turns out, he finds his dad's dead body. He helps an escape from being sold off to somewhere else. And later, it turns out all that adventure was unnecessary as when the widow died, when the boss died, she made him free. And it also kind of so I guess Huckleberry Finn won't go to hell. Sort of. Now, the next thing that I seem to know is that Huckleberry Finn goes ahead and plans so much mischief. In fact, this is just a sequel. The first book that he wrote is The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Also, somehow this one gets the more credit of being Mark Twain's most famous work. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. It's about the original guy going ahead, doing all the stuff. And the guy who literally somehow scam people into whitewash this fence for him. Does his punishment for him. And so he gets all that delicious sweet and loot. And he trades it for honors. Hey, I got honors. I got a medal. I got the expensive Bible. And that's how it seems to work out. And Mark Twain had money issues. In fact, he had loads of debt. That's why he went on tour, and he did loads of other things too. He went on tour, and even with that, he still had debt. And so he died with debt. His wife died, his daughter died, his son died, and then lots of other kids died. However, the only surviving child from his own heritage was his daughter, who had a grandson, and that made the ancestor, bless you, that made the ancestor and the descendant of Mark Twain possible. And so from there, Samuel Langhorne Clemens died on April 21st of 1910. And today is just a 5-minute video. The legacy he left behind is a gigantic one, I'll have to tell you. He's left behind so many people a story to tell. And much of the stories that he wanted to tell and he couldn't tell, it just makes us speculate about it and create suspenses and create our own endings. In fact, he created a sequel to the Huckleberry and Tom Sawyer series, but however, he never finished it, so they published an unfinished version. And then, also, the books itself, these 2 books in particular, they make you remind you about how you live your life and how you seem to live when you were a kid and how life seemed to be so easy until you became civilized. It just reminds adults of that they were the ones to be the kids who were being scolded. And it reminds them of the irony that they were once the kids who were being scolded and now they're ones who are scolding. And they themselves hated the people who scolded them. And now they're probably going to become the people who are being hated. So I guess this is also a good way to try to change your ways and try to change how people live their lives. I think it's also a good reminder, these books that Mark Twain writes, it's a good reminder on how people should view their lives and how they should use their time well. The legacy he left behind, I mean, it's still affecting us nowadays too. The movies that were created in novels, and this one sci-fi movie that's my favorite is like Claymation. Also, I'm not sure it's a kid-related movie because it has some weird scenes that kids should probably not know, like Satan, like killing things, and then weird other things that seem to happen, like nudity and all those things that shouldn't even be in kid stories too. However, Samuel Langhorne Clemens still has a big influence on us with us just reading his books, reading his words, we just find ourselves into the lives of our pasts and how we're living our lives right now. It reminds us of who we are and who we used to be and who we can be. And that is it. What do you think about Samuel Langhorne Clemens? Please tell me in the comments down below because I really want to know. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Hunter and John. I hope to see you guys soon. So until next time, John out. Peace. Do 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 do